for providing such a wonderful product. And folks, I want to invite you to take care of your heart also by going to GodzillaHeart.com. That's GodzillaHeart.com. Use the code Godzilla at checkout, and you'll get a 50% discount on your initial shipment. Thanks so much.
The Cats and Cosby Show.
It's the top news of the day.
There's a number of Democratic members of Congress who are pushing for impeachment. They're not just going after the president, going after RFK Jr. and others.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories.
Judge Weinberg.
Listen, it's the most important midterm in our lifetime.
Cats and Cosby, weekdays 5 Eastern, 4 Central on the stations of the John Frederick Media Network.
This is a big deal.
Attorney General Miyares and John Fredericks talk about skill games.
They're unregulated slot machines.
They pop up in 7-Elevens in every corner of Virginia.
The General Assembly has spoken on this.
Skill games.
These things are illegal.
It's the Wild Wild West. Fights break out. Robberies increase.
Skill games.
They prey on the less fortunate.
I say it's a tax on the poor.
They're breaking the law.
My job is to enforce the law. These machines are not allowed.
Enforce the law and get them out of there.
When you see skill games, call the local sheriff.
These things are illegal.
Paid for by Churchill Downs.
Did you ever stop and think, why do the wealthy pay less taxes than we do? One reason, they take full advantage of the IRS tax code. Today's tax code is over 2 million pages. Who can read that? Remember the 2016 debate with Hillary Clinton? When asked why he doesn't pay more taxes, President Trump had the perfect answer. He said, if you don't like the current tax code, change it. I follow the very laws that you wrote. That's where Julio Gonzalez and his company, Tax Engineered Services, comes in. Julio's team looks at your taxes after they're done, but before you file them with the IRS. He doesn't get between you and your accountant. He reviews your taxes, makes his recommendations, and only gets 5 to 10% of what he saved you. No money up front, no cost. It's tax literacy for MAGA. He also sees what grants you may qualify for. For more information, text ETS to the number 26786. That's ETS to 26786. Text now.
It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning, and welcome to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, our very good friend, all-star panelist, author of Misrule of Law, Mark Pulliam. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Michael. 2026 is getting off to a bang.
It is. It is. It's time for the Morning Rundown, which is brought to you every day, usually at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. But today, it's being brought to you right now by our friends at the Glock Store, glockstore.com, located just a few miles from the airport, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. So here we go. Here's the Morning Rundown for Monday, January 12th, 2026. Number one, we have an ongoing insurrection in Minneapolis and other left-wing would-be city-states. Mark Pulliam, you've got a terrific column that's got a lot of coverage. Anatomy of an insurrection. We'll get to that in a bit. Number two, Donald Trump wants Greenland to protect America's Arctic northern flank from Russia and China. Denmark, the United Kingdom, France are threatening to send troops, I think a bunch of snowmen and maybe a couple of dogs, sled dogs, to protect Greenland. Not going to happen. We'll end up buying Greenland. Number three, revolution against the Islamist terrorist regime in Iran. Guess who's not reporting on that? The mainstream media. And number four, here in Tennessee, the Tennessee General Assembly convenes. And in hour three of the program, former U.S. Ambassador to Denmark under Donald Trump in 1.0, Carla Sands, joins us. Mark, it is brought to you, the Morning Rundown, is brought to you every day at this time. Well, not at this time, but 9 o'clock. By our friends at the Glock Store. For years, you've been hearing me talk about how the Glock Store is everything Glock. That's why Lenny calls it the Glock Store. Well, have you heard about the latest Glocks, the Gen 6? You can bet Lenny has. Lenny tells me the new Gen 6 Glocks have a new optic system, RTF6 texturing, an enlarged beaver tail, flat-faced trigger guard undercut, and an integrated thumb rest, also known as the gas pedal. Well, to be honest, I don't know what most of that even means, but Lenny does. In fact, Lenny tells me the Gen 6 Glocks are definitely the most refined Glocks ever produced. As you might expect, the Glock Store has already received their first shipment of Gen 6 G17s, 19s, and 45s, and they were literally gone before they even arrived at the warehouse. That's because the Glock store is letting you pre-order these new Glocks, so you'll be the one to first get your hands on one. And as a thank you for your pre-order, you'll get an extra magazine when you receive your new Gen 6 Glock. That's what you do. Go to Glockstore.com, Glockstore.com. Place your pre-order for the Glock or Glocks of your choice. When they ship your new Glock to the FFL of your choice, or you pick it up at the Glock store, or right here in Nashville, the Glock store will throw in an extra magazine. Visit Glockstore.com today. I promise you'll be glad you did. Okay, insurrection. What on earth is going on? Are they all just a bunch of total nutcases in Minneapolis?
Well, it's deeper than that. And for all during 2025, each Monday we would talk about how these blue states and blue cities are slowly turning up the heat with their resistance to President Trump, and in particular on the enforcement of immigration laws by ICE in cities where most of the illegal immigrants live. And we talked about this week after week, what the judges were doing, what the mayors were doing, what these good-for-nothing police forces like the crybaby police chief in Portland, who is sad that the Venezuelan gang members were shot while trying to escape and run over ICE officials.
That crybaby police chief in Portland crying for the criminal illegal aliens who were shot. Let's just play this a little bit to just give you an idea of how lunatic these police chiefs in Minneapolis and Portland are.
And what I can say is there is an association with the two folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming, oftentimes portrayed by law enforcement, including this very agency that I've represented so proudly for so many years. And historically, we have not been quick to disclose the potential criminal history of others. But I felt it was imperative because I was asked yesterday in the news conference what information we have. This is information we have. This in no way draws a through line to the actions or the behaviors that occurred yesterday. I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community.
Oh, now he's going to cry. Here we go. Cry. Now he's crying. He's crying. Look at this weasel.
It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks.
Oh, so sad.
Because I understand.
Okay, well, that's enough of that crying weasel.
Well, it's bad enough that liberals sympathize with criminals, but when police chiefs are sympathizing with criminals who are endangering federal officers, that's ridiculous. And so a lot of people were wondering, and I've been wondering and speculating, what is the motivation for this craziness in all of these blue states and blue cities? Well, it all came to a boil last week in Minneapolis in the wake of Nick Shirley's exposure, and this has been something that had been trickling out for years about the extent of the Somali welfare fraud, particularly child nutrition programs, Feeding Our Future, that it became clear that hundreds of millions, possibly as much as $8 or $9 billion of welfare money had been pilfered just out of the state of Minnesota. And it was sufficient that Tim Walz abandon his reelection bid, but it was more than that. And you could see that the political forces in Minneapolis needed to divert attention and needed to try to derail the Trump administration, because if this came to light, the entirety, the tip, the rest of the iceberg, so to speak, it could be calamitous, not just for Democrats in Minnesota, but in all the other states where the same thing is happening on an even larger scale, New York, Illinois, California. And so what we've seen is these groups, NGOs, dark money funded groups, recruiting, training, and equipping these crazed anti-ICE agitators to try to obstruct and interfere with ICE's operations in Minneapolis, which they're simply enforcing federal law. These are federal statutes passed by Congress.
Yeah, let me just say, we got this from our friend Ben Cunningham. the Manual of the United States for the Information of Immigrants and Foreigners, it has this was published in 1929. It's got the new naturalization law from 1929. This has been a law, a federal statute for well over 90 years. And they are acting like the southern states who were resisting the civil rights laws that had just been passed, in the past couple years from the 1960s. It's crazy.
Well, they act like President Trump invented this and is sending his shock troops in Minneapolis. They are calling it an invasion. All he's doing is enforcing federal law. That's what the rule of law calls for. If Congress passes law, they get enforced. Well, as a result of this amazing amount of disruption, a ICE officer, Jonathan Ross is his name, shot and killed a deranged 37-year-old anti-ICE activist, Renee Good. And this started all the caterwauling that always starts when we have a situation like this. And we saw it with Trayvon Martin. We saw it with Michael Brown. We've seen it, Kyle Rittenhouse.
George Floyd.
And they're making him out, he's a murderer, that she's an innocent victim. They're trying to canonize her. The contrast with Ashley Babbitt. So Michael Byrd, an incompetent, previously disciplined Capitol Police officer, shoots an unarmed military veteran in cold blood, kills her, and he's congratulated, and people are telling the world, the news media, that, oh, Ashley Babbitt got what she deserved. And the same people are turning around and trying to treat this Renee Good as if she's a saint, when in fact, she's a lunatic. And fortunately, due to all the ubiquitous cell phones and body cameras and whatnot, we have footage from every possible angle that makes it clear that she was itching for this, and that she was just so proud of herself for being there, defying federal law.
With her so-called wife.
Yes.
And who actually, in the moments before the shooting, after Renee Nicole Good backed up and then accelerating directly at the ICE officer, just before she started that acceleration, she said the supposed wife, lesbian wife, said, "Drive, baby, drive."
And they make it sound like she was trying to escape, but her wife wasn't even in the car. They were egging on, taunting these ICE officers, and they've been encouraged to do this by Jacob Frey, the Minneapolis mayor, by Tim Walz, and by all these other cast of characters in Illinois, Oregon, and California. But what this is, and what I call it, is an insurrection, because what this is an attempt to derail President Trump's election last year, the number one issue why American voters reelected him despite all the great challenges that they posed for him with the lawfare, et cetera, was because the border was out of control under Joe Biden, and President Trump said, if you elect me, I will fix this. And they elected him, and he fixed it, and they can't stand it because this is the center of their welfare fraud scheme.
Yes.
This is the new patronage that fuels their political machine. And if we expose the welfare fraud, we will expose the voter fraud that's right behind it, and the political machine that many of these Democrats depend upon in blue cities and blue states would begin to unravel. This is a struggle for control. The Democrats will do anything to preserve their control. I call this an insurrection, and I say Americans have to unite behind the rule of law, behind President Trump, and not flinch in the face of this, because this is unprecedented defiance, rebellion, nullification, insurrection. It's the greatest threat to the rule of law in my adult lifetime, and it very much concerns me. But I think, unlike the Summer of Love in 2020, where they burned down American cities with BLM being praised and subsidized, et cetera, I think the American public has waken up and is not going to let it happen again, and I sure hope it doesn't.
Yeah, I think you're right about this. It's interesting because if you look at it, the Trump was elected to do a couple things: close the border and basically remove illegal alien criminals that are destroying our country because they're not assimilating. And now it's very clear They are the centerpiece of a huge network of fraud, huge, that benefits the Democrat Party.
And it will boggle the mind of American public when it finally comes out. We've always had political corruption, Tammany Hall with Boss Tweed, various other political machines. And what they did to buy votes and buy their political support was give patronage, usually in the form of government jobs. Nobody wants to work anymore. So now, instead of dispensing government jobs, you allow people to cheat on welfare, and wholesale cheating. It's cheating on a scale that we've never seen before. Unfortunately, it's because these welfare programs are more lavishly funded and more poorly supervised than they've ever been before. And so if you have a community of people like Somalis who basically like to cheat and steal, it's like a buffet of corruption.
It's a buffet of cheating and stealing and corruption. Back with more by our very good friend, Mark Pulliam. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
Ponder this, Judgment Day, the day you go before the Lord face to face. For many of us, this day seems like a long way away, and we are told that all of us will be in a better place when we die. What many of us forget is that our God is a God of justice. On Judgment Day, you will stand before the Lord and account for all of your thoughts, words, and actions during your time here on earth. You might be thinking that you're not such a bad dude, you didn't kill anyone, and you went to church every now and then, so you've earned your ticket to heaven. Hold that thought, as the Lord has told us what we need to get through those pearly gates. We must believe in Him, be baptized, follow Him by keeping His commandments, love Him, and love our friends and enemies. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you possess, how many awards or accolades are on your resume, or how much money you have, nor how high you are on the ladder of success. Judgment Day is real, and you are not judged by a jury of your peers. Prepare each day for Judgment Day. I'm Susie Kelly, and I am passionately Catholic.
Did you ever stop and think, why do the wealthy pay less taxes than we do? One reason, they take full advantage of the IRS tax code. Today's tax code is over 2 million pages. Who can read that? Remember the 2016 debate with Hillary Clinton? When asked why he doesn't pay more taxes, President Trump had the perfect answer. He said, if you don't like the current tax code, change it. I follow the very laws that you wrote. That's where Julio Gonzalez and his company, Tax Engineered Services, comes in. Julio's team looks at your taxes after they're done, but before you file them with the IRS. He doesn't get between you and your accountant. He reviews your taxes, makes his recommendations, and only gets 5 to 10% of what he saved you. No money up front, no cost. It's tax literacy for MAGA. He also sees what grants you may qualify for. For more information, text ETS to the number 26786. That's ETS to 26786. Text now.
When you're learning something new, experience matters. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we've spent over 30 years teaching people how real estate investing works and how to build income with a clear, step-by-step strategy. Our program is designed to help you learn what to do, why it works, and how to take action at your own pace. Join today for just $297, a 60% savings off the regular price. Text radio to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited.
Get in. We're stealing homes. We're not like those other home criminals that steal your stuff. We steal your hard-earned home equity. We find your property online from the public record. Got it. Create a deed transfer that makes us the homeowners. Got it. And borrow tons of cash against your equity, and you won't know till the foreclosure notice hits months later.
Just go to HometitleLock.com/Godzilla. Protect yourself.
Hey there, it's Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported our Second Amendment rights with GlockStore.com, the world's #1 source for Glock handguns, parts, and accessories. I also support accurate, unbiased journalism like The Michael Patrick Leahy Show. His team broke the Kilmar Abrego Garcia traffic stop and was the first to obtain that video. Independent journalism at its finest. Visit us at GlockStore.com, listen to Michael Patrick Leahy, and make America great again.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and They're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Our guest, who has a blog, Misrule of Law, Mark Pulliam, a very esteemed retired attorney. I keep trying to drag him back into the fray, but I think the fray right now for him is writing stories and articles about the insurrection. Well, Mark, why is it that mayors of blue cities and governors of blue states, by what authority do they defy federal law?
Well, there is no authority, and it astonishes me how illiterate many Americans are when it comes to basic civics and American history. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. And a lot of people act like, well, whether or not you're a sanctuary city, whether or not you permit ICE to operate in your city, that's a policy difference that, it's like, what kind of color paint do you prefer? No, it's not. That federal law under Article 6 of our Constitution is paramount. The Supremacy Clause is paramount to state law. When federal law covers an issue, as federal statutes dealing with immigration and deportation, which have been on the books for many, many decades, clearly do, states simply cannot disagree, resist, defy, obstruct. And so when you hear the rhetoric coming out of Illinois and Oregon and California and Minneapolis about get the F out of our state, that's just defiance. And they have absolutely no authority whatsoever to take that position.
But they're trying to assert that authority.
They're trying to assert it, but so they're kind of neo-Confederates. And people say, well, but is the law really that clear? It could not be clearer. Nothing on the books is as clear as this. The Supreme Court precedents going back to before the Civil War, where northern states who didn't like the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, and they were passing laws and giving aid and comfort to people harboring runaway slaves and passing laws allowing runaway slaves to stay there in defiance of the Fugitive Slave Act, the southern states took this to the Supreme Court, and there were several Supreme Court decisions saying you cannot do that, Wisconsin. You cannot defy federal law. If you want to end slavery, if you want to revoke or revise the Fugitive Slave Act, you have to do it through the process of legislation. You can't defy it. And so then we had people, these radical abolitionists like John Brown, who decided, well, let's engage in some violence. That will help our cause. And he murdered people in Kansas.
He murdered 6 people in Kansas in front of the
with
wife
a
and mother.
broadsword.
Yeah.
Butchered them with a broadsword. He was a maniac, a zealot. And then he tried to take over, or did take over a federal armory in Harper's Ferry. And all of this contributed to the extreme polarization of public opinion, which resulted in secession, which resulted in a horribly bloody civil war. And that is what, if you listen to Tim Walz, that's what he's itching for.
You heard him say, Minnesota has never been challenged like this since Minnesota,
since Gettysburg.
Since Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
That's crazy talk. And then fast forward to about 60 years ago, the late 1950s, early 1960s, you had a bunch of southern states who didn't like the Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education and the federal court orders in its wake that ordered them to integrate public high schools and universities. And so in Arkansas, the governor of Arkansas, Orville Faubus, said, well, we're not going to integrate our high school. And in fact, he called out the National Guard to prevent black students from enrolling at the all-white Central High School in Little Rock. Well, President Eisenhower, called the governor and said, you can't do this, and if you persist, we're going to have to take extreme action. And he said, make my day. And so Eisenhower made his day, called in 1,000 troops from the 101st Airborne made the state of Arkansas submit to federal law. And
see, I think that's, in a way, that type of action is what the far left in these blue cities, they want that kind of confrontation. They well may get it.
Yeah, and they think that it can't happen. It can happen and has happened. And the southern states still didn't get it. In Mississippi, there were riots when a black student tried to enroll at the University of Mississippi. President Kennedy had to invoke the Insurrection Act and send 30,000 troops to Mississippi to quell the rioting that was going on. And then, of course, George Wallace stood in the doorway at the University of Alabama to protest the enrollment of black students. And Kennedy again had to invoke the Insurrection Act and send federal troops down there. So this is what they are trying to push for, trying to provoke this type of conflict, which is reckless, it's irresponsible, and it is not going to turn out well for these blue states. And unfortunately, it's going to come at the cost of great amount of turmoil for America. And so for them to be doing this, it's, I think, totally unpatriotic. It's evil.
When we come back, Tom Pappert will join us, Mark, and we're going to hear where the money is in the organization behind these anti-ICE groups, particularly in Minneapolis. Back after this.
The Katz and Cosby Show.
It's the top news of the day.
There's a number of Democratic members of Congress who are pushing for impeachment, not just going after the president, going after RFK Jr. and others.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories.
Judge Weinberg.
Listen, it's the most important midterm in our lifetime.
Katz and Cosby, weekdays 5 Eastern, 4 Central on the stations of the John Frederick Media Network.
This is a big deal.
Let's be real. Losing weight isn't just about looking good. It's about taking back control of your overall health. 42% of adults in America are classified as obese, and obesity is directly linked to severe health issues. If you've tried diets and different workouts with no success, it's not your fault. Big Food and Big Pharma have rigged the system against you with contradicting information, leaving you confused. But there's good news. The Wellness Company just launched Drop, a GLP-1 peptide oral drop formula developed by their chief medical board, specifically designed to support your metabolism, curb cravings, and help you shed weight. That's right. No injections, no risk of the severe side effects we're seeing with the Ozempic. Start your weight loss journey today and get $100 off, plus free shipping. Go to twc.health/Godzilla and use promo code Godzilla100. That's twc.health/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla100. Take action today for a healthier tomorrow.
John Fredericks loves his radio and TV audience, but did you know how to follow the Godzilla of Truth wherever you go? Download the John Fredericks Radio Show app to listen live nationwide. For the daily chit-chat, Trucking the Truth, download the Getter app and join the morning fun on Getter Live from 6 to 10 a.m. Follow John Fredericks on Getter, Truth Social, or Twitter at JF Radio Show.
WJFN W224EB 92.7 FM Chester, W299DB 107.7 Bon Air, 100.5 FM Goochland, and WJFB.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says he's facing a criminal indictment from the Justice Department, and he says it's all based on President Trump's unhappiness over interest rate policies.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
The DOJ says that's not true. The subpoena relates to Powell's congressional testimony last June. Los Angeles police responded yesterday after somebody drove a U-Haul box truck down a street that was crowded with marchers demonstrating in support of the Iranian people.
Protesters scrambled out of the way and then tried to attack the driver. The truck was stopped blocks away and surrounded by police cars. ABC 7 helicopter footage showed officers keeping the crowd at bay as demonstrators swarmed the truck, throwing punches at the driver. Los Angeles is home to the largest Iranian community outside of Iran.
That is correspondent Haya Panjawi reporting. The police statement said one person was hit by the truck, but nobody was seriously hurt. The driver has been detained. It is week 2 now of the trial of a Texas police officer who's charged in the halting law enforcement response to the 2022 fatal shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Here's correspondent Julie Walker.
Prosecutors will continue to try to prove former officer Adrian Gonzalez did nothing in the early moments of the assault to stop the gunman. 19 students and 2 teachers were killed. Last week, the opening days of the trial included dramatic replays of the initial emergency calls and tearful testimony from a parent and teachers. Gonzalez's attorneys say he never saw the gunman to try to stop him before he got inside the school. I'm Julie Walker.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Have you noticed losing weight is harder than it used to be? You're eating better and exercising, but the scale barely moves? The real problem isn't willpower, it's metabolic dysfunction. And standard dieting just makes it worse. PhD Weight Loss has helped thousands fix the root cause of stubborn weight. Take their free metabolic assessment at fixmyweightloss.com. Fixmyweightloss.com. It's quick, personalized, and shows why your body is resisting weight loss so you know exactly what to fix. Visit fixmyweightloss.com. That's fixmyweightloss.com.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
And now here's Rich Thomason with the Midday Wall Street Business Report.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell, whose interest rate policy has rankled President Trump, says he's now facing a criminal indictment from the Justice Department.
Powell issued a video statement about the central bank being served with subpoenas and facing threats from the Trump administration. The subpoena relates to Powell's congressional testimony last June, but the Fed chair said it's about something else.
This is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Powell warned that the Fed's independence is at stake. Greg Clugston, Washington.
President Trump wants a 1-year 10% cap on credit card interest rates. Could save Americans tens of billions of dollars. Canadian Prime Minister Carney is visiting China this week, looking to mend relations with the world's second largest economy. I'm Rich Thomason.
Breaking news and an Facebook's parent company, Meta, has reached nuclear power deals with 3 companies as it continues to look for the electricity sources for its artificial intelligence data centers. More details from correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
Meta struck agreements with TerraPower, Oklo, and Vistra for nuclear power for its Prometheus AI data center that's being built in Ohio. Meta announced Prometheus, which will be a 1-gigawatt cluster spanning across multiple data center buildings in July. Prometheus is anticipated to come online this year. Meta says that the 3 deals will support up to 6.6 gigawatts of new and existing clean energy by 2035. According to a general industry standard for utilities, a single gigawatt can power roughly 750,000 homes. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The energy-hungry Prometheus AI data center is being built in New Albany, Ohio. More on these stories at Town Hall.
It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, all-star panelist, good friend, author of Misrule of Law, retired attorney, the one, the only, Mark Pulliam, on our Zoom newsmaker line right now. Dow Prize Award winner for the best local journalism in the country, the one, the only Tom Pappert. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Michael, and good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
So, Tom, we were wondering who's paying for all the coordination that's going on up in Minnesota. I mean, we go down the list. There were trainings. There was a group called Ice Watch where this Renee Nicole Good and her, quote, supposed wife, Rebecca Good, were trained. And then there's this Immigration Defense Network that the former political aide and advisor to Tim Walz was running and founded. And then you've got this Minnesota Unidos. You got money from George Soros. You got money from this very weird Chinese communist sympathizing, living in China, Neville Roy Singham involved as well. So what's the story? What do you have to tell us about Minnesota Unidos?
Well, Michael, it's a very interesting picture when it comes to the funding and the resources used by these rioters and protesters and so-called legal observers in Minnesota, both before and after the death of Renee Good. Unidos Minnesota is one of many groups. They are funding or rather instructing people how to become what they call constitutional legal observers. And these are the folks who, as far as I can tell.
Tom, just pause for a moment. We have our retired attorney sitting right next to me here. What is a constitutional legal observer?
Well, this is Orwellian, where you have people engaged in unconstitutional nullification of federal law, and you're giving them the label which dignifies their illegal. Obstruction of ICE is a felony. Yeah. It's a crime. So they're taking criminals and dressing them up as if they're some constitutional do-gooders. It's a total lie. This is all being pushed by the propaganda press, and I hope the American public doesn't fall for it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry,
well, Mark, what drives me nuts, sorry, Mike, just to add, they call them observers. All of these groups, they call them constitutional observers, legal observers. They don't seem like they're observing anything to me. They seem like they're participating. They blow whistles. They stop their vehicles in the middle of the road. So I don't know how it's legal, and I don't know how they're observing.
Yeah, and now the money, I mean, you did some money trails. Go back to this Santiago fellow, not an American citizen, who was the top political aide to Governor Tim Walz, until he resigned in 2022. And now he's got like this Immigration Defense Network, which is funded by all sorts of left-wing types. And they did a training on Tuesday evening before the Wednesday event. We don't know if this was the training attended by Renee Nicole Good and her, quote, alleged wife. I think there was a report that Ice Watch, another related group, that she got hooked up with through the charter school that her child attends.
A social justice academy.
Yeah, social justice academy. By the way, Tom, I looked at that website of that charter school. Reading, writing, arithmetic appeared nowhere. Social justice appeared everywhere. But basically, she got involved with this Ice Watch group. And then you said there's a report that Ice Watch did trainings in mid-December and on the Monday of the week she was killed, and that she and her supposed wife attended those trainings, one of those two trainings. What do they learn there, Tom?
Well, it's being reported that this has happened. It's not clear. Again, these groups, some of them actually maintain very detailed membership registration numbers. For example, the group run by the Immigration Defense Network, run by Walz's former staffer, they request zip code, address, mother's maiden name, about everything you could want. I think it would be a very good target for the Department of Justice. But this Ice Watch group is a little bit more informal. They, in my understanding, tend to rely a lot on the training offered by other groups, and then they are the boots on the ground posting videos to Instagram and TikTok that go viral, and they are the tip of the spear in the activist fight against ICE. And some of their purported training materials have been released, they've been discovered and posted to social media, and essentially they are trying to what they call de-arrest people. So if they see an illegal immigrant, maybe it's a rapist, a drug dealer, whatever the case may be, they say go up to this person, they block the road, they get in the ICE officer's face, and they are doing this with the express goal of forcing the ICE officer to release the illegal immigrant.
And this is aiding and abetting the commission of a felony that we sicked the FBI on some trespassers, some deluded trespassers on January 6th, and treated it like it was the most serious threat to American sovereignty in its history. And in places like Minneapolis, you've got these Soros-funded agitators actively working to obstruct ICE people in violation of federal law. And nobody, everybody's kind of saying, oh, isn't that interesting? If we took this seriously, if we acted like Biden's Justice Department did, the FBI would be rounding up every one of these people and hounding them and arresting them for committing the crimes that they are committing. People need to understand there's nothing spontaneous about this resistance.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing organic about it. A lot of these people are pawns. This poor woman was a pawn. That the scheme is bigger. They're trying to create a spectacle. They're trying to trigger a violent conflict. They're trying to stage Summer of Love 2.0. They want the rioting back because rioting is one of the left's favorite political tactics.
The other part about this, Tom Pappert, I noticed is, so there were and have been, since the shooting, thousands of Minneapolis people in Minneapolis, the ICE haters, who've been out in the streets. Has the Minneapolis Police Department been there to maintain order, Tom Pappert?
Well, of course not, Michael. In fact, we know that it's a sanctuary city. We know that they're not going to be supporting ICE, but we've actually seen some videos, especially from late last week after the shooting, that showed Minneapolis police essentially retreating from the scene and letting activists, what did they call it? I think Tim Wall's wife said they need space to express themselves or something like that back in 2020, and that seems to be the tack they're taking now. Now, a difference would be that because Minneapolis is obviously a big city, metropolitan area. There's lots of smaller police departments that are part of this metro area. And independent journalists like Nick Sorter and Cam Higbee, who were attacked last night, they had frozen water bottles thrown into their vehicle. They say they thought that Antifa people were trying to kill them. And they say that other local police departments, the smaller police departments, have actually been very helpful, and they're doing the best they can, but are frankly outnumbered by the Antifa surge. And by the way, just to get back to Mark's point from a moment ago, there is a Soros connection. Unidos, Minnesota used to have a political arm that was funded to the tune of $100,000 by George Soros, but it's not just Soros. There's a guy named Neville Roy Singham that we've talked about on this show before, who is allegedly funding he's definitely funding the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Socialist Party in America, and they are organizing these protests throughout the country. Now, in Minnesota, it's another socialist party called the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. They've also been written about in Congress by national media. There's no confirmed link that Singham funds this group, but they're essentially allied and unified. This is the Farmers Democratic Party in Minnesota versus the Democratic Party of the nation.
Exactly. Oh, Tom, stick around if you would, please. Mark, stick around if you would also. The big question is, how many people in blue cities, Minneapolis, etc., are suffering from this mass psychosis? And where does this end up? Back after this.
Hi folks, John Fredericks here for Freedom Alliance. Veterans are still struggling with the wounds of war. They came home with injuries that changed them forever. The flag-burning troublemakers in our streets remind me how fortunate we are to have patriots who served and fought, sacrificed, and never complained. We need to support them through organizations like the Freedom Alliance. It's Military Appreciation Month and time to support those who serve. Freedom Alliance is caring for combat veterans and military families. Combat veterans fought in the worst, most dangerous places on earth. Freedom Alliance takes them to nature's most relaxing locations so they can heal. Freedom Alliance gives injured troops mortgage-free homes, new cars, and all-terrain wheelchairs. For wounded vets, there's nothing like the stability of your own home, the reinsurance of a reliable vehicle, or the independence of a wheelchair that navigates snow, ice, beach, pasture, or most any terrain. Let's fight for those who fought for us. Go to freedomalliance.org/Godzilla and make a monthly gift that will improve the life of a military hero. That's freedomalliance.org/Godzilla. Make a contribution today.
If you're like me, most moms find it difficult to prioritize self-care. Hi, it's Colleen, Program Director at the John Fredericks Media Network. With the demands of programming 13 radio stations, it's easy to forget about the things I should do for myself daily. And that's why I started with our company's Women's Challenge with Native Path Collagen Peptides. It's affordable and convenient care in just one scoop a day. There are so many incredible health benefits like bone and joint support, metabolism booster, and hair, skin, and nail improvement. I like to take a moment each day to prioritize myself and indulge in the health-boosting benefits of Native Path Collagen Peptides. I love mixing it up with all the different smoothie recipes, too. Learn more about Native Path Collagen Peptides and read 7 important reasons why you should be taking collagen peptides at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Prioritize your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today and get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
Target.com. Target.com is an online e-commerce tire retailer. We are here to serve the American public with the best possible customer service, the best pricing, and we make it extremely easy. We have many name brands and a lot of low-cost tires. The price is right, and it's easy. You go online to Target.com, Tireget.com, Target.com. You go there, you put your zip code in, all the inventory displays right in front of you. You can call in for help if you want to. We'll help you get the tire that you need. But we will take the tires you buy and at no extra charge deliver them to the dealer right by your house where they will be installed at the market price. It's easy. The best price, the best service. Great people to deal with. Thank you for going to Target.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. In studio, Mark Pulliam, author of Misrule of Law, the blog. Also on our Zoom newsmaker line right now, Tom Pappert, Dow Prize Award winner. Tom and Mark, over the weekend since the killing of Renee Nicole Good, justifiably by the ICE agent, there have been every day widespread protests in the Minneapolis area. Reuters estimates that at the peak on Saturday, tens of thousands of protesters were in the streets. Now, the population of Minneapolis is like 450,000. The greater Minneapolis-St. Paul area, about 3.7 million. Question for you, Tom, to start off with. How many of those tens of thousands are Minneapolis residents? And within the general populace in greater metro Minneapolis, how many crazy people are there?
Well, Michael, it's interesting because videos have surfaced on social media that indicate there are some alleged paid protesters there. There's been people that have been spotted previously in Colorado, in New York, in Washington, D.C., protesting Trump through really since 2017. One of them I saw had been doing this for almost a decade now. But another part of this, I think, is the financial networks that we were talking about a minute ago that organize some of these protests, because there are a plugged in, think for our listeners of what big city you're most familiar with. A lot of them, that's going to be Nashville. And I don't think you would have too difficult of a time turning out a few thousand crazy people in Nashville. Afton Ben had a lot of them vote for her just a few months ago in the special election. And so I think that's what you're seeing right now in Minneapolis. You're seeing this kind of core radical left-wing voter base that every big city now has, and it's coming back to haunt their mayors, because Jacob Frey Fry, however he says his name, just barely won re-election there. And now he has activists in the streets using expletives, not just against ICE and President Trump and Kristi Noem, but against him, because he's seen as complicit, because he has a police department in his town. And the same is being said about Governor Tim Walz, because he dared to consider bringing in the National Guard. He wanted the National Guard to get into fistfights with ICE, like he wanted a civil war. But these radical leftists on the ground, they say he's supporting law enforcement. He wants more police on our streets. Tim Walz must go. So I do think that some of this is organic, while indeed it seems as though a good chunk of it, at least, is coming from out of state and probably being paid via Cash App.
Well, it could be organic and not be spontaneous, just as with the No Kings protest that was organized by the Indivisible Group, which is funded by George Soros and other oligarchs. You have field organizers who plan these things, who use social media to stir the pot. And I think that's part of what has got people to show up in these opposition. Plus, you got the propaganda press. And it's ironic that this group of leftist agitators is unhappy with Mayor Fry when, first of all, he learned to talk Somali and would give some of his campaign speeches in Somali. And he's the same guy that let the protesters in 2020 burn down large parts of his city, including a police station, gave directions to the police department to evacuate the police station so that it could be burned down. The sad thing is Minnesota is not full of lunatics. About half the state is pretty normal Midwesterners. The legislature actually is pretty closely divided. The Democrats have a very narrow, in some cases like a one-vote majority in the houses. What has happened is under Governor Walz, they have put the pedal to the metal with this far-left agenda and have done crazy things. And so I think a lot of this could be blamed on bad leadership, and you have to wonder, why is it that the leaders of the state of Minnesota and Minneapolis are so intent on staging this conflict, which they're doomed to lose? It has to be because they're trying to cover something up, this massive amount of fraud. I think we'll find a massive amount of voter fraud. If you can steal that much money, you can steal elections, you can bundle votes just like you can fake names and pad the payrolls, etc. So I think if we have the resolve to see this through, this could be the exposure of this cancer in Minneapolis, which I think is present in other blue states and blue cities, and it could be that this will ultimately vindicate President Trump's immigration policies and the MAGA agenda.
We have a clip I want to show just how crazy these protesters are, these tens of thousands that have been in the street. Clip 9. If we get to it in just a second. But I will, in playing this, you've seen so many of these clips of just absolutely insane people. Let's play this clip right now, clip 9.
This is what we're dealing with on the ground, all over. That's right. Actually, I'm very respectful, and you're not respectful at all in any way.
Okay, and it's a lot of worse stuff, but that was a Real America's Voice reporter. And there was a white liberal woman acting like a nut. They have lost their minds. What's wrong with white liberal women these days who live in urban areas? Mark Pulliam.
Well, I wish I understood it and could explain it, but there's something seriously wrong with our culture. I think it all has to do with feminism has kind of taken on toxic levels. That there's a sense of entitlement, that women have taken the empathy that they used to devote to raising kids, and now it's turned into almost kind of a suicidal empathy for groups of refugees who would burn them alive for their Western lifestyles, that they embrace Muslims, even though Muslims do not reciprocate. You have the lieutenant governor of Minnesota dressing in a hijab to try to appease this large Somali voting bloc. I think, though, that they're loud and they're noisy, but they're outnumbered by normal people. And what normal people in America need to realize is that we have to organize and stand up and push back against this crazy element of, you got the Gen Zs, you got the gender confused, you got these crazy affluent suburban women, etc. And we outnumber them, but we have to act like it in order to prevail.
Tom Pappert, where do you think all of this goes? Let's talk about Minneapolis specifically. Are these protests going to continue indefinitely? And I see the schools are decided to stay out of session until February 12th. That's obviously going to give the teachers opportunity to get paid and be involved in these protests. We got about 2 minutes here, Tom.
I think that it's going to slowly wind down, and maybe not even that slowly. I think we saw from 2020 that eventually the Democrats will realize this is not helping them. And as you guys both said, the American people are not mentally where they were 6 years ago. They've been through this before. I think the silent majority is out there, and they're watching this with horror. They're shocked to see this happening yet again, and over a shooting that seemed to so many people to be completely above board. But I do think that it's going to fade away quickly because it's going to start hurting Democrats. And I'll give you an example. Over the weekend, there was a incident where Antifa was in Minneapolis, and apparently they were throwing roses. It's, of course, an Antifa icon, has been for like a century now. And one of the state or DHS officials walked up to the rose, grabbed it, and gave it to a female ICE agent who did a little dance and seemed very happy about it. That has millions of views on social media. I think these are the moments that are going to be remembered from this. It's not going to be some middle-aged divorcee screeching at ICE agents from her vehicle. It's going to be the ICE agents, the people like Cam Higbee and Nick Sorter that are going out there, the Nick Shirleys filming these massive documentaries breaking down fraud allegations. That is what's going to be remembered from all this, not the radical lunatics in the streets.
Tom Pappert, Dow Prize winner for the best local journalism in America. Tom, thank you so much for your analysis. And we'll be talking more tomorrow, I'm sure. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure.
Mark, up next, we're going to shift gears dramatically. Our next guest is the former U.S. ambassador to Denmark, Carla Sands. And yeah, I'm going to get her reaction. She was there in Trump 1.0. Trump is making it clear. He wants Greenland. And he's going to get it. You see Denmark saying, oh, yeah, we're going to send troops there.
Aren't we glad we have Alaska now? People
really?
Laughed at that. I think Greenland is going to be more strategically important than Alaska was.
It obviously is more strategically important. And, let's be honest, the Danish don't have the ability to defend our hemisphere against any potential Russian or Chinese intervention coming across over the Arctic.
There's only 58,000 people live in Greenland. More people live in Franklin.
That's a true statement. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's well done.
Yeah.
More people live in Franklin, Tennessee, the suburb of Nashville, than live in Greenland.
Yeah.
And, look, Trump said, I'll give them $100,000 each. That's only $5.8 billion. I mean, if I'm in Greenland, it's a Western Hemisphere country, guys.
Yeah.
Don Road Doctrine. Here we come. All right. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you on. Up next, Carla Sands, former U.S. ambassador to Denmark.
agency and frequent guest on the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, here to tell you about GetFoundEverywhere.com. Customers are searching for your business everywhere: Google, Apple Maps, TikTok, and new AI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini, which is a total disruptor. Traditional search engine optimization isn't dead, but it is on life support. Old tactics don't work anymore. So how can you make your business stand out? GetFoundEverywhere.com makes your business pop on over 50 search, map, review, and AI-driven platforms. With one easy dashboard, manage business profiles, social media accounts, direct messages, even texts and reviews. GetFoundEverywhere.com is affordable, boosts your visibility, and gets your business more customers. It's time to step up your game the easy way. Save time, save money, and get more customers with GetFoundEverywhere.com.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of Glockstore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported the Second Amendment rights of free men and women to protect themselves and their families with firearms. We offer the very best in both selection and prices on Glock handguns, custom Glocks, Glock magazines, and high-performance shooting accessories at Glockstore.com. We also have the finest retail showroom and our Shoot 270 shoot rooms right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Come visit us at Glockstore.com, and you'll be glad you did.
My fellow Americans, my good friends, I've known them for a long time, at D.T. McCall & Sons have the deal of a lifetime for you, and nobody knows deals like I do. That much I can tell you. Nobody knows deals like I do. The lumber yards, they can hit you with hidden charges for up to $200 extra. They'll charge you for cords and hoses and haul-offs. Your money goes all over the place and out of the state, and most importantly, out of your pockets. How do they get away with that? I don't know how they do that, but on day one, if you buy from McCall's, we are going to stop the hidden charges as soon as you buy it. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. Head to one of their stores today or check them out at dtmccalls.com. You're going to love it, believe me.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We are delighted to welcome to our Zoom Newsmaker line right now the former United States Ambassador to Denmark in the first Trump administration, Carla Sands. Welcome, Ambassador Sands.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, I imagine a lot of people have been trying to get your thoughts on this since you were very much involved in earlier discussions about the role of Greenland. Greenland is controlled by Denmark and has been for a couple centuries. Last night, President Trump said that a military presence on Greenland is not sufficient. He wants to have ownership of the island, citing the Russian and Chinese presence in the Arctic. It's heating up now, if you can say that about Greenland, but the talks are heating up. Marco Rubio's talking with Danish officials. What are your thoughts on this? Where does it go, Ambassador Sands?
Well, I talked to the Danish ambassador and the Greenlandic representative last week, and we discussed this. The Danes are really upset, but the fact is, there's two key things that they're not paying attention to, and so they're very upset. But two facts that President Trump, I believe, is aware of. Number one, the Greenlanders have said they're going independent. Iceland used to be part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and they went independent in the 20th century. Greenland, a majority of them, want independence. They will go independent in the 21st century. Denmark's not paying attention to that. They probably don't want to focus on it, maybe think that they can keep them from going independent by not letting them be prosperous and just sending them the $600 million a year that they do every year, but not doing any development, infrastructure, or anything like that. The second thing is that the NATO charter, there are these rules that every NATO member ally has to to follow. One is Article 3. Article 3 is that every NATO ally has the ability to defend their own territory, and then Article 5, come to the defense of their allies. Denmark doesn't even have the ability to defend their own territory. The Nazis took them over within hours in the mid 20th century, and you probably will believe they had a better defense than they do now. They will never be able to defend Greenland, and they have no intention. In 2019, the current Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, told President Trump, I will invest, because he pushed about Greenland and the security of Greenland. She says, we'll invest $200 million. Well, flash forward, this year she had invested 2 million of that 200 million. So 1% she actually did. So basically, she didn't bother doing anything. Now Denmark is saying, under Trump's pressure again, we're going to put billions into Arctic security, but it's over many years. And you know that they're not going to do it if he's not in office. They're just going to let it go and put it into their social welfare programs, which are really rich and very generous to their citizens. That's what they prefer to spend their money on. And the people prefer it too. So it is a crisis for Denmark. They don't want to lose their Arctic, they're in the Arctic Club because of Greenland. But they can't afford to defend it or develop it. So President Trump is on the right track, and we're not mercenaries. It's not our job to secure Denmark's land. That's Denmark's job. And if they can't afford it, just like if you own a building and you can't afford to pay for it and keep it up, you have to sell it.
You know, many of these Danish officials that I think today, tomorrow, are meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. What do you think that conversation is going to be like?
I know them well. And, there are some people, especially those on the other side of the aisle, who have been invited by the Danish parliament. Some very hard left anti-Trump senators are actually going on a codel there at the Danes' invitation. That's unfortunate. They're taking the wrong tack, and they're sort of the prime minister hasn't even spoken with the president in a year. So the fact that she's not picking up the phone and trying to work something out, the fact that they haven't been having I would say, a collegial dialogue to get to a good place is a bad sign. They're a tiny economy and a small population, and we are their security. We're also their largest trading partner. And so it will not go well for Denmark if they don't go in with an attitude of, let's work on this and let's get to a good place.
The Prime Minister of Denmark has not spoken with President Trump in over a year?
She has not picked up the phone. And how many think about world leaders, senators, congressmen, business people, pick up the phone and call. President Trump is always available.
He's always available. 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. If she called him at 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd pick it up, He would
pick up. That's right.
So why do they have this odd idea about the importance of Greenland, which, by the way, as you know, is in the Western Hemisphere, right? It would be covered. It would be the northern extreme of the Monroe Doctrine or the Donroe Doctrine.
But it is part of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
There's no question. Part of North America.
Why do they cling to it so fiercely?
It's a matter of pride. But here, the fact is, the Greenlanders have already said they're going independent. It's just a matter of when. President Trump is making sure that when the when comes, because remember, China tried to pull them into their Belt and Road Initiative. Mm-hmm. And just recently, Greenlandic leadership said publicly, if the U.S. doesn't invest in our mines and in our industry, we're going to be looking to China. They don't care. They said to my face, money has no color. We don't care where investment comes from.
Interesting.
That's right.
So they said that directly to you. We don't care whether the money comes from the United States or China. That's a security problem for the United States of America right there.
That is a real security problem. It's, they're small, they're, less than 60,000 people. So it's like a town, but but the size of 1/3 of the continental U.S. So it's a gigantic landmass with very few people. And so you don't get the same capabilities as if you had millions and millions of people and sort of, you kind of different kind of people percolate up.
How long do you think it'll take for this issue to be resolved?
Well, that's a really good question. I think by the end of President Trump's term, this will be in a better place. Greenland will be more secure. And I'm not sure how he does it. I think another mistake, besides all of the others that the prime minister has done, is that rather than picking up the phone and calling Trump to work something out, she's gone around to all these heads of state in Europe who are really, most of them, terrifically unpopular, like, the head of the UK, Germany, France. I mean, these are all unpopular leaders because the people aren't happy with the direction that the governments are going. And she's asked them for help. And now I'm hearing like the UK is saying, we're going to send in military to help occupy Greenland and defend it. I mean, UK can't defend themselves. What are they thinking about? So they need to get their own house in order.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh, yeah, Denmark will send more troops there, and France and the United Kingdom send troops. They don't have anything close to American capabilities. Not even, 1% of our capabilities. That seems to be just pure political posturing.
Right, Michael. In fact, if they want to prosecute a war or defend their own country, they have to have U.S. as a helping hand, like top cover, because we have capacities that they don't have. And as part of NATO, many of these countries even refuse to actually be a fighting force. They're only willing to be in the kitchen or send logistics.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, but not the Danes. The Danes are willing to go into bad places with us shoulder to shoulder. And there's a lot of good I can say about the Danes. Their policies are very Trumpy, but they just reflexively hate Republicans, especially when they're living,
Mm-hmm.
and they especially hate President Donald Trump.
Really? Would you say across Denmark, what percentage of the population of Denmark would you say hates Donald Trump?
Well, I can actually tell you the exact fact. Unfortunately, he is the least popular in Denmark of any European country. He has a 3% approval. He just can't make it up. And yet these people have tougher immigration laws than we have. If there is a preschool or an apartment building that has more than 51% Muslim inhabitants, they close it down and they tear down the building. I mean, can you imagine if we would go in and do that in Minnesota with these building blocks that have been occupied by these illegal Somalian immigrants?
What is it? Is it President Trump's personality? Is it the assertion of American power? Why do they have a 3% approval rating for Donald Trump among Danish citizens?
Right. Well, the countries that have lived under communism, like Poland or Hungary, these countries have an appreciation for him. They understand he is a free market guy who is making America great again, and they want to be great again. But Western European countries like Denmark, they look at President Trump and they say, he's messing with our good deal. America was paying for our defense. All these weak U.S. presidents would do whatever. We could just push them around. They'd pay for our defense. They'd give us this money, that money. We liked it that way. They're really hooked on American taxpayer support when these are rich countries. I mean, Denmark has a GDP per capita of probably more than $60,000 per capita. So it's a rich country, as many of the other countries are, but they would rather we paid their everything, and so they can have a rich life with free health care and free child care and free college and just free everything. Why not?
Last question for you, Ambassador Sands. What's next for Carla Sands?
Well, we'll see. President Trump has the best team I've ever seen in my life pulled together in his cabinet, and what he's doing is so exciting. I'm thrilled to be the chair for foreign policy at America First Policy Institute and also work on energy there. And it's the honor of my life to have served him as the U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark.
Okay, so I guess here's what I take from that. If you were called back into service, the answer would be yes.
Well, wouldn't all of us serve the president if he called us to serve?
Exactly.
Especially this president, because he actually gets things done.
Boy, does he get things done. Carla Sands, thank you so much for joining us. Your insight is invaluable. We really appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Michael. Thank you.
All right. Ambassador Carla Sands. Wow, that's great. That's all the great stuff you get here. We go right to the source. I have to say, the ambassador is quite right in terms of ultimately the United States is going to have control over Greenland. That's what's going to happen. I think it is more likely to happen this calendar year, right? Because why mess around? Meanwhile, Russia, China, who knows what they could do? And the Arctic waterways, because the temperature of the Earth has gone up about 2 degrees Fahrenheit over the past 100 years, the Arctic waterways are now more navigable, which means the potential for a Russian naval invasion coming from that Arctic area through and around Greenland is much higher. And so I don't think Trump's going to mess around. Here's what I think. I think we're going to buy Greenland before the end of 2026. We'll see if I'm right. Hey, when we're back, it'll be time for News Potpourri. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
A healthier heart and stronger cardiovascular system. At Solti, we regularly get emails from our customers telling us how Solti has helped them. Like this one from Kelly. Hello, I'm 58 years old and have had high cholesterol for years. I wanted to stay away from prescription drugs. My husband and I have been using Solti for about 13 months. My results have been amazing. My cholesterol levels went from 291 to 129. I am so impressed with Solti and want to thank you. Now, in my own case, my bad cholesterol dropped from 130 to 89, and that was 20 years ago. I'm 75 years old and I take 0 prescription drugs. To get a great deal on Solti, please go to GodzillaHeart.com, and when you check out, use the code Godzilla to get our best deal, which is 50% off your first shipment and then 3 bottles for the price of 2 thereafter. You don't have to live with a broken heart.
Do you suffer from
Try
declining
Solti
bone and
today.
joint health? Hi, it's Tina with the John Fredericks Media Network. And when I heard about our company's Women's Challenge, I jumped on the opportunity to test this amazing supplement that's already restoring my bone density, soothing my joint pain, and helping me regain lost mobility. I've experienced so many benefits in such a short time with Native Path Collagen Peptides because they support my bones and joints, boost my metabolism, and unleash the most radiant skin and hair since my 20s. In just 2 weeks, my knee stiffness is gone, and I'm already hitting the gym more aggressively. And I get so many compliments on my glowy skin and shiny hair. Native Path Collagen Peptides are so easy to take. They're tasteless, odorless, and mix great with my morning coffee. Read thousands of 5-star reviews at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Level up your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today. And get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
In 2008, the amount of concentrated time people could spend on a task without becoming distracted was 12 seconds. 5 years later, it was only 8 seconds, 1 second less than a goldfish. If you're often distracted or have trouble recalling information, you're likely to fall behind in the demanding, fast-paced 21st century. In other words, brain performance is more critical now than ever. Boost your brain power with Healthy Cells Focus Plus Recall. Science-backed nootropics to help you sharpen focus, concentrate longer, enhance recall, improve mental speed, learn rapidly, and be more alert. It's a pill-free brain supplement made with maximum absorption ingestible gel technology, designed to feed your brain at the cellular level. Take it for a test drive. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of Focus Plus Recall. That's HealthyCell.com. Code GODZILLA for 20% off.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Well, folks, it's that time of day again. It's time for News Potpourri. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, News Potpourri. This is the portion of the program we talk about those stories that are of note, don't necessarily merit a full segment, and may have a touch of irony. Well, here we go. We talked about that ice resistance training going on in Minneapolis over the past couple weeks. We have a little clip here that shows you exactly what that's about.
Has already started, as we said. People have been doing the same thing. This was an event at a church there on Monday night. People acted out immigration detainments, and the rest of the room practiced filming them and making noise to call attention to them.
At a church. Oh, my goodness. The left has captured many churches, unfortunately. Probably we have such a terrific cabinet right now. Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Doug Burgum at Interior. But perhaps the best Secretary of Treasury since Alexander Hamilton, Scott Bessent. He went up to Minneapolis, and Governor Tim Walz refused to provide him security when he went to the state capitol, and Bessent called him out. Let's play this clip right now.
But one curious detail, this interview was originally scheduled for the Minnesota State Capitol. Can you explain why that didn't come to pass and why we're here?
For one reason, Chris, Tim Walz is a coward. He is a coward. He would not guarantee that the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America would have police protection in the Minnesota State Capitol. He is afraid of what is coming. And he's not going to be able to hide behind this curtain because we will get there. And I don't have to go in the Capitol building to investigate him. I would love for him to come to Treasury and answer some questions. I can guarantee you that he will be safe and sound then, depending on what we discover. I don't know about his future. And as I said earlier, that will be the only view of the Oval Office he ever gets.
Okay, so Tim Walz will be safe and sound during the investigation. But, he clearly was aware of the huge fraud going on. If I'm Tim Walz, I feel very uncomfortable today. All right, what else do we have going on? Oh, yeah. Jerome Powell. Did you see this? Jerome Powell felt it necessary to go and put out a clip last night because he's under investigation by the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. That's Jeanine Pirro. This began back in November, and it was just announced over the weekend, I think late Friday. And he's saying that the investigation is, did he lie to Congress about all the, it's like $1 billion renovation to the Federal Reserve Building? And remember, famously, it's like way over budget. And Donald Trump went there with his hard hat. Of course, Trump looks very comfortable wearing a hard hat, right? Because he loves construction. But Jerome Powell looked, very uncomfortable. But this investigation is about, has he properly supervised all that money? Look, it's hard to the guy is an economist. He's not a construction manager, A. But B, did he misrepresent himself when he went to Congress? And that is, that's a lot. That is a federal offense. Now, so what did Powell do? Well, he went up and said, "Oh, the president's only looking at this as a way to pressure me to lower interest rates." Well, the president's been very clear about the need to lower interest rates, and Powell has resisted him. His term is up in May. Here we are, January, so he's got like 4 more months. He says he's going to stop it. And then, I don't think Jeanine Pirro got the note from Trump to investigate this. I think she said, "Oh, well, let's take a look at this. This guy is not. She knows he's not a friend of the president, but $1 billion or so overrun. It's like a huge overrun there. It's a worthy area to look into. Now, the rhino Tom Tillis from North Carolina, who said he's not going to run for re-election, he said, well, clearly you're trying to influence the interest rates here, and you can't do that with the Federal Reserve, and therefore I am going to stop for the remainder of my term any nominations whatsoever for the Federal Reserve. Well, that's kind of petulant, but you kind of get that. Bill Kristol, by the way, did you see this? The irrelevant Bill Kristol, who hates Donald Trump. He said, okay, now we need to get 4 or 5 Republican senators to now caucus with the Democrats to oppose Trump. He suggests Susan Collins, Rand Paul, a couple others, Tom Tillis. I think there was one other. Maybe, did he say McConnell? I don't think McConnell would do that. But, that's just how utterly irrelevant he is. Hey, did you see this clip? This is interesting. So the protesters, the tens of thousands of protesters out in the frozen hellscape that has been Minneapolis, they were harassing a TV broadcaster. Oh, you got to report the truth, dropping F-bombs here and there. But then they said, where are you from? CNN. Oh, you're good. You can go ahead and do that. But Nick Sortor and Cam Higbee, who are independent conservative journalists, what did they do? They tried to basically beat them up. They were attacked. Kind of crazy. So we got that going on. What else do we have going? Oh, this is big. Be on the lookout. The Supreme Court may very well announce its tariff decision this week. Could be this Wednesday. This is very important because if they say, you got to pay all the money back, it will be very much an undermining of the Trump agenda. I don't think they'll say pay it all back. I think it will be a decision that is not exactly what President Trump is looking for, but it won't destroy the program. But we'll see. All right, there you go. That's our program for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp Central Time. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Up next, you've got more from the John Fredericks Radio Network.
This is State Senator Mark Pody. Government is limited to what it is supposed to do. One of the things that is critical that we're supposed to be working on is transportation. Here in Middle Tennessee, our roads need more help. As your state senator, we are focused on getting more money reoccurring without a new tax increase for our roads here in Tennessee. This is State Senator Mark Pody.
Paid for by Campaign for Mark Pody, Christina Hibden, Treasurer.
Hey there, it's Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of GlockStore.com. For over 30 years, I've supported our Second Amendment rights with GlockStore.com, the world's #1 source for Glock handguns, parts, and accessories. I also support accurate, unbiased journalism like The Michael Patrick Leahy Show. His team broke the Kilmar Abrego Garcia traffic stop and was the first to obtain that video. Independent journalism at its finest. Visit us at GlockStore.com. Listen to Michael Patrick Leahy and make America great again.
FlatFeeNashville.com is a full-service real estate brokerage that charges homeowners a upfront flat fee of $999 to completely list, market, and sell your home. We are all about saving consumers money, saving that equity. Nobody should hire an agent and feel like when that agent walks in the door, that agent is more concerned about the down payment on their next Mercedes purchase versus saving the equity that those homeowners have worked hard for. I've spent my entire career in ensuring that the equity that people save and they put into their monthly mortgage every single month as much of that as we possibly can goes back to them when they go to list and sell that home. The idea is to give homeowners the ability to really create generational wealth.
Flatfeenashville.com, flatfeenashville.com.